Hey, so today I'm going to show you how to cut this mannequin into collarbone length. Pretty simple, so I'm just going to stick with it dry. Cut one length all over, and then we're going to go in with dry texturizing. This is going to help collapse that weight that tends to get very heavy at the bottom. We can say we're going to add a lot of movement in here, and you can tell she already has this perimeter bang thing going on, and also in the back is a little bit of a shelf. So you can see that here. We're just going to cut the length to that point, and then we'll go from there and add some texture to her hair. So let's get started. So the first thing I did was assess her hair. As cutting with dry hair, if she has a wave in her hair, but she likes to wear it straight most of the time, I'm going to go in and actually flat iron or blow dry that pretty straight. And I'm going to treat this mannequin as if she was my client. So she already had a little bit of a wave and a kink in her hair. So I just went through, I blow dried it as flat as possible, and I'm going to go in now section by section and just really give her a nice blunt line to start with before we go in and texturize. I have her in 4 quadrants, so the normal 2 in the front, get back here, 2 in the back, and then I section off at the occipital bone. I'm Angie. If you don't know me, I've been a stylist for 20 years. I'm a shark fin ambassador. Love it here. Let's get to work. And I'm going to have her look down slightly. So what I'm going to do here, I don't want my first section to be too thick or too thin. I want to have a very good guide just to let down the rest of the hair and really cut a nice straight line is what we're doing. With a dry cut, I like to use a wider tooth comb. This one is lucky enough to have all wide tooth. And I'm going in with my 6.25 Monarchs here with this one. And do your basic guideline here. So I'm just going to create wherever I feel like. We want this to be about collarbone, so I'll go right below that neckline. Go in, cut a straight line. Try not to cut past your second knuckle. And not only because you're going to cut it, but because that is the point where the tension is a little bit different. You have a little bit stronger of a tension hold in between your 2 knuckles than you do the rest of your fingers. So if you cut where your knuckles are, it tends to just go up slightly. So let's try to avoid that. Go in here. I'm just creating our baseline. Okay, so now we have our baseline down. I'm just going to work slowly up the head in the amount of sections that I feel like is necessary. If I take down a subsection that is too thick, then I can't see my guide, then I need to make that section smaller. Let's just do this, drop it down. I can see my guide through there, that's perfect. Down here, we can see that right there. Cut. And I can just follow my line. I am not going around the head with this. I'm going to bring everything kind of over direct this corner angle just so we don't have a rise in our haircut when we go towards the front. So just over directing it slightly to ensure that it has a nice line there. And let's just work up the head. And again, over directing on this side just slightly. If her hair was wet to start, same process again, just doing your basic 1 length collarbone haircut. Blow dry, if she wears it straight and curly, we're going to go in and blow dry it straight. That way we can see everything that we're doing. And we don't want to worry about any like kinks. We have her look down in the back to reserve just a little bit of length. And I also find that it helps them from moving their head all over, looking around at what's going on in the salon. And then in the front, I'm going to have her look straight forward for me. I'm going to section off at the temples, the top of the temple. And this is going to be my first guide here. Section off. And we're just doing a follow through with that line. Okay. She's looking straight ahead. And we're going to follow through with the rest of the cut. Temples, subductioning. You know the deal. Do that. Nothing too difficult right here, just one length bob. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know who I'm trying to convince. Sometimes that one length bob is the hardest thing to do. And it just takes some patience and some practice. Little miss. Keep looking straight ahead for me. And I'm gonna go. Again, I can see that guide very clearly. I'm gonna go in here. If you wanna use your comb and not your fingers, shoot for the stars, you know? I prefer to use my fingers. I feel like I have a little bit more control with it. Just my preference. Okay, coming this all straight down. Not cutting past that second knuckle. Okay, now that we have that baseline cut, now we have a couple of options. So I'm going to show you a few of my favorite ways to add some texture and movement into this haircut and add a lot of wind sweeping layers without directly adding layers in here. So you have a couple of options. I have a long shear, which is the 6.25. I have the Damascus 5.5s, and then I have the thinning shear as well. So I'm going to use all of those just to give us a little bit of an example of what to do here. First, I'm going to just section off that front part. Again, really, really simple. You'll find the technique that works best for you, but these are the ones that I love the absolute most. So I like to collapse right under here. This is where, in the neckline, in this middle area, where it holds a lot of weight, but we don't necessarily need that, but we just want that like blunt line here. And the first thing I'm gonna do is go in to the occipital bone. It tends to be about the middle or the top of the ear. Do this. Okay. Grab my little clippies, and I'm going to make sure she isn't looking up and she's looking straight ahead for me. With my longer shear, I like to do a point cut that is a deep point cut. So I'm going to section, leave a little bit of hair here just to ensure that I'm not cutting into that length. I'm keeping it a blunt cut here. Going in, and I'm going to work through with my shears. I'm going to point straight up so that way I don't take out too much bulk and create little mini layers that might end up popping up for her. Straight up. See, it's pushing a little bit of that hair in there. And that's what we want. Beautiful. And I'm going to continue that on both sides. So I started in the middle. I'm working around the head, pointing straight up. and again on this side. And you can see here where there's a lot more density, and over here is where we already added a little bit of texture and took out a little bit of weight. And you'll see what I mean when I say we added texture at the very end. It just gives a nice subtle movement without adding anything extra or making it difficult for her to pull those layers up. So that's pretty simple. We're gonna walk it up to the next subsection. I'm gonna go about an inch higher, inch to an inch and a half. No one wanted that clip anyway. Comb her down again. And now I'm gonna go in with my texture shears. And I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna make sure I don't take a good portion of that hair from previous section. I'm gonna make sure I don't touch that hair from the previous section. It's okay if some of it gets in there. And then an option for this is to go crissy-cross. So I'm gonna go this way and this way. And just bulk right in there. Shatters the line completely. It's underneath and it's in the middle of everything. Okay, so that's all right to take out some of that extra bulk because all the hair likes to move this way. And it all lands right in the center. So we're taking that bulk out so it doesn't create a bubble. On the side, I'm gonna go in and just do 1, 2. And the reason why I'm staying mid-ground here, and I'm not going higher, if I go higher, it's gonna create some volume. I don't want volume in her hair. I want to tighten this in, okay? So if I wanna create volume, I could maybe go up a little bit shorter, create some shorter pieces that are easy, almost like you teased it. We don't want that in this haircut. Again, going in here. I'm gonna make sure I use my scissors the same way I did on the other side. Beautiful. We opened and closed one time and pulled through. We don't need to go chomping at her hair only because we're not trying to create a new line in her hair. All right, so now we're at this top section and it's up to you if you wanna just take down this whole section and do what I'm about to do, or you can continue with subsectioning. And I would guide towards the way of just point cutting into it to collapse this top area and add some movement. What I'm gonna do now, instead, I'm gonna take vertical sections. Let's see if I can spin her this way. Okay, I'm taking vertical sections. And you see there's a point in here. If she hadn't had a little bit of a layer going on, it would be a complete point coming out because of the blunt cut. So I'm going to make sure I hold the hair right where I want the hair to start collapsing. So I'm gonna see. That's about where I've been putting it. So we'll have a little bit of volume and some extra movement going on. I'm gonna pull this hair straight out and let my fingers end a little bit short of where I want to start cutting. So here goes my fingers. I wanna start cutting this way. And I'm just gonna lighten up these ends. So you can tell where it's thicker at that top area and where it's a little bit thinner down here. We maybe don't wanna touch those spots quite as much as we do with this thicker section. So let's get into it. I'm pulling her directly out in a vertical section. This one I'm going to take my 5.5 Damascus. I'm going to put my scissors in and slowly close them while lifting my hand up. Again, scissors in, slowly close as I lift my hand up. And I'm going to show you on the other side as well. If I stand over here, holding these out. That's where I want them to be. pull it up. And you can see how much lighter those ends are, and I'm not creating any extra layers. So I'm gonna go in and slowly closing. And also, that one was a little bit longer, so I'm opening and closing slightly. A little in here, and a little in here. And now what I'm gonna do is just comb this out. And when I hold it back up, see if there's any extra weight. So there's this line right here. You can see that looks just a little bit extra thick. It might be the color, but just for fun and it's a mannequin, I'm gonna go in and just take the slightest amount out. Once she moves down, that's gonna create a good amount of movement, wind sweeping hair without having layers and defined pieces. So again, I'm going in, stopping my fingers just short of where I want that curve to be, where it collapses. Just for my own arm health, I'm gonna rest on her head a little bit. Vertical. Pull those scissors in and guide them out. Once it gets to this very top section, it is a little bit longer of hair that I'm going through. So I am doing slow open and close movements. Open, close, open, close. Pulling straight out of the head, vertical angle. And just lightly taking that hair out, okay? And one more time over here. And it's okay now if I picked up even this whole entire section that I did. You can see the hair that falls away that we've already done. And that doesn't quite meet the criteria of having it thicker, where we actually need to debulk a little bit and add that texture and that movement in. Okay, so now you can see if the wind, do not blow on your clients. She is going to move around. She's not going to be this box that's hanging out. All right, so let's move to the other side again. I'm going to do the same thing. You know what? Let's just do the point cutting on this side. I'm going to go in, take another subsection. And I'll show you. It just really is what you make of it and the art that you want to create with the hair, how much movement they need for their texture. I'm going to go in here. I already did that part, it looks like. And just because it's in my comb doesn't mean I have to cut it. Okay, so over here it looks like I already did that section as well because it was probably part of the previous haircut. Right in here, it looks a little bit more of that blunt line, a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go in, point cut. I switched my shears back up to the 625s. If I can speak correctly. Okay, and one more time. I'm making sure while my blade is in there, that is where I'm cutting. And I'm not skipping and cutting down here. I've seen that many of times and we're like, why does that keep happening? Why is it not taking out enough bulk? Maybe because we're not actually cutting the hair, okay? All right, let's continue this all the way up the rest of the head. Now she has nice movement. pretty similar on both sides, but when you go into her side view, you can tell it's a little bit more collapsed, and then when the wind sweeps her up, she moves around a lot. Let's go ahead and continue towards the front. I'm going to incorporate two of those different things that I did. First, I'm going to go through and I'm going to point cut, deep point cut throughout the section. And then I'm going to go in and make sure I hit all those points that were a little bit too heavy on us. So again, here we have her hair. I'm just keeping out some of that hairline. Make sure she has a nice line there, because we're not taking away that bluntness. Okay. If you're a little bit worried about cutting into the front section as well, you can always leave that down and then just go in and texture that after everything's done. Okay. I'm going to section off some of this back hair too, just so we can see a really good example. So this back area is something we've already texturized. It is clear. We have already texturized that. You can still see that nice line for her length, but it's not nearly as heavy as her front. So let's get that all together and give her a nice light textured hair all over. So again, deep point cut. And I'm going to do this all the way to the top in my subsections. My subsections are about 1.5 inches wide, long, whichever way you want to call it. 1.5 inches thick. So in this mannequin, we have about 3 subsections. Got 1, 2, and then 3 is going to be the top. And go in here. You can see a little bit of this area that may have been texturized already. I'm just going to graze it slightly, and I'm really going to go into the parts that are thicker. This is great for thick clients. It's great for medium thickness clients, thinner hair. You want to just be very careful about how much density you're taking out. Again, at the top, deep point cutting. She already had that little bit of face framing going on. All right, so in here now we're going to go into our vertical sections. I'm going to take my 2 fingers, slide down the head, and lift straight out, okay? We do not need to have exact lines. If you choose to, go for it. I'm going to make sure that I don't have that bottom length in here, so I can take some out if I want. Hold it directly out from the head. And you can tell how shattered from point cutting that is. That's beautiful. If you want to leave it like that, great. I'm going to go in just a little bit more and just shatter up my point cutting. Okay, so I still feel like it's a little bit heavy right in here. It's not going to bring those layers too short. And I'm going to go in and again, slowly lift my scissor up and away. Up. Okay, parts that are already not too thin, but already thinner. If you want to just glide through 1 or 2 of those sections, but you really don't need to touch them. Beautiful, and then let's just continue that throughout this whole entire section. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Slowly guiding away. I'm not going into that top layer. I still need that top layer so I don't have a short piece hanging out. Saying good morning every day. There we go. Beautiful. Continuing towards the front of the hairline, and I'm going to be very, very careful here to ensure that I do not create any lines or any holes in her hairline. Okay, so I'm going to just coast that through. I only see a little bit of where the texture happened, which is what we wanted, but I need to add just a little bit more, just to shatter up that heaviness that tends to happen around the face. So we're just going in lightly. And just for the fun of it, let's texturize these bangs because they are a little heavy on her. So I'm just gonna go in, do that same technique just to shatter that up and add it to the rest of the haircut. Give her a cool little feathery look to it. So right now it's just a great opportunity to look at this. And if you can see it, your right side has a lot more texturized movement, okay? You can see that without me even blowing at her head. This side, very dense, very heavy. I'm gonna continue the same thing on the other side, and then I will show you a little bit of a fun way to kind of curl her up, and you can really see that texture in there. Switch up my shears. You do not have to. I like to because I have a little bit more control with a shorter shear. Hold her straight out. We can see where I just texturized, and I'm just gonna go a little bit above where I just started to texturize, and I wanna get in this area right in here. My comb is going in and slightly open and close. I'm not closing all the way. Just notching. And that just smooths out the transition of going from point cutting, deep point cutting, into the fullness that's at the top. Again, making sure my section's not too thick, and once I start getting into that hairline, I'm going to be very, very careful. Here goes where I textured already with my deep point cut. Go slightly above right in here. My scissors are going in. Open, close, open, close, open, close, all the way through the ends. And to follow through. What we like. All the way through the ends. Beautiful. And again, we'll just do the same thing through this bang area, what I did earlier. I'll just show you because it's a fun little trick. Go in, and we're doing the same exact thing. I'm going to start right where I want it to bend. Put my fingers in, and again, just really going in. Open, close movement. I'm not fully making a close on the scissors. Just ever so slightly, all the way through the end. And now she has a feather bang. Now we have both sides done. I'm just going to feel out her hair and make sure there's not one side that feels a little bit too thick or thicker than the other side. So we can always just send her on her way like this. I'm going to go in. I have enough time on my schedule to add a few curls just to really accentuate all of this texture that we just did. So those first few sections we're going to push away from the face, and I'm just going to start without clipping the hair. Start from the top and work towards the bottom. So I'm just going to, again, do one, take that iron out, and then just pull it through. That's going to give me 1 1/2 of a curl. Again, right in this front hairline. That's going to go away from her face just to really help open her up. Okay. Then after that, I'm going to take a little bit smaller of a section, a little bit thinner of a section, and now I'm going to work every other way. So this one's going to go towards her face. The next one is going to go away. And this is a 1-inch barrel. Again, it does not have to be this curling iron. It can be any curling iron that you love. And this very bottom in the back, I like to leave it alone. It's a time saver and it helps create that bluntness that we like to see. So this curl's going forward, this one's gonna go away. And I'm not going all the way up to the root. I'm keeping the iron straight up and down. My next section is gonna go the opposite way. This one went away. Right below it is now gonna go forward. And that's gonna make sure that these curls do not lock into each other. They will stay a little bit more separate and give you this cool little feel to the hair. And see why you don't need that bottom section curled. This hair is still gonna cover it because it's not heavily layered, it's heavily textured, okay? So we still have the length there. We just have little pieces in between that length that are gonna help add this really cool, voluminous, soft bob. And this can be for any length hair. I just feel like the collarbone is pretty much globally flattering on most people. Okay. And there we have it like that. I'm going to continue and I'll show you the final result. All right, guys, here goes that final look, all curled up. You can really see that intense texture now. I'm going to spin her around. You can really see that. And you see how there's no need to curl that bottom length. First, it's going to fall out. That's where we sweat the most. And also, it really helps add to that blunt line, extra texture in here. I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure you follow, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you back here at the next video for Shark Fin Shears.